Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Ifini Great Malabite.
Good morning,
Malabite.
Ruben.
Action.
Yeah, welcome back to the
Thank
video.
you.
We've been missing you a lot.
Thank you.
Yes, good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Rufai. We'll start the review with this Nigeria's newspaper of record. Let's start from where you guys stopped a short while ago. From the window story of these day newspapers. Fubara secures crucial win as court confirms a here authentic Rivers Assembly Speaker. APC threatens to petition NJC. Accuses governor of orchestrating tension. Call Wike to order. Clark tells Tinubu's elder statesman, Chief Ike Clark. Now, of course, the development in Rivers State is just happening thick and fast. And our correspondent, Andy Omano, was really musical in his report from the scene of the demolition, or close to the scene, because his life was being threatened if he dared to move himself and his camera close to the demolition scene. But the Rivers State situation, of course, we know the origin. The governor and his godfather. But politicians must be very careful. In order not to jeopardize this democracy, every reasonable Nigerian fought so hard to install, because the way the politicians are going is as if a group of children playing in the sand without rules, without any regulation. The constitution is clear. Now we have two factions of the State House of Assembly in Rivers State. And yes, a court has ruled who is the authentic speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly. But I know we've not heard the last of that, even by judicial ruling, because some persons can still appeal that, well, it's even an ex parte injunction, as it were. But what is happening, perhaps Chief Nyensom Ezewon Wike and Mr. Sim Fubara, they need to tell Nigerians, especially the people of Rivers State, the agreement they signed, that somebody is not keeping, that is causing all this brouhaha. Because we know it is not about the interests of the Rivers people that we are seeing all these shenanigans. It's about personal interest, personal agreement, and of course we've heard, you touch my structure, I fight you. We heard it. What's that supposed to mean? Well, why will that House of Assembly be destroyed or being demolished as we speak? Well, there was a bomb attack and some parts set ablaze. Ruben, there's this Yoruba proverb, Ile Oba to Jono. What happens? You bring it down and build a brand new one. But I know that is not the proverb that is engineering this demolition. I know that is not the saying that is engineering this. Of course, we've seen templates from other states where roofs of House of Assembly removed once. The next time, of course, granite, sand, deposited all around the House of Assembly in Benin City. But this time, it's like the Rivers people have taken this a notch higher. Demolition of the House of Assembly. But how will all this end? Politicians fighting dirty, fighting. Yes, Dr. Abati, you were saying Sim Fubara is doing nice guy. Yeah. I hope now you know that demolition is not a nice guy.
He hasn't shown enough balls. Well,
with all this one. Well, I think Dr. Abati.
It's not about demolishing buildings.
No, Dr. Abati.
That's my assessment.
No, let me just.
His target should be Wike himself.
No, hold on. Dr. Abati, I think what the governor has to deal with first to ensure that that 27 members They don't have the space, the peace, and the tranquility to sit down to plot against him. Because if they do,
I don't see demolition as a
no,
sign of
I'm
courage.
not supporting his demolition. No. Don't get me wrong. I'm not supporting him. But I'm telling you that the real battle is not Mr. Wike first. It's the foot soldiers you have who are the House of Assembly members. Okay. Because these are the people who can remove the governor constitutionally. Okay. And they can do so under any guise, and they just tag it.
Did the judiciary rules against him in Port Harcourt? He will go and demolish the court. No, I don't subscribe to that.
No, I'm not supporting him. I don't support any demolition. But you are saying he has
settle his political scores,
yes,
which is a godfather, and there are ways in which he can do that. And I've recommended he should go and learn from masters of the game like Abdullahi Ganduje.
Is there a book for it, Dr. Abati? Well, has anybody written it down?
You learn it when you get
how to fight godfathers.
But no, of course, many have done it successfully. They don't have to. You don't need to have to destroy the House of Assembly to do that.
Yes, you play your politics.
Of course,
don't punish the people.
Let's go to, even if you just go to Akwa Ibom, where gentleman Emmanuel Udom.
Yeah. Who says it's a
cleanly,
gentleman?
no way. Cleanly and clearly took out Governor Akpabio. He did not destroy any building, not even one block. So there are, but
Akpabio just celebrated his 61st birthday
at
the Akpabio Stadium.
No, he has bounced
to
back.
show that he's still.
I'm back. I'm back.
There is a cat with 9 lives.
No. You know what they say of the Beatles back then? You can't kill the Beatles. That's Akpabio. And don't forget, it's a Malabite. Now let's go to other stories. The front page.
But they killed John Lennon.
Let's look at the lead story. The front page of this day. Federal government charts new roadmap for power sector. May halt dollar-denominated gas transactions. 250 naira per kilowatt of self-generated power unsustainable, says Adelabu. Electricity subsidy gobs 2.8 trillion naira in 7 years. May guzzle 600 billion naira in 2023. Edu, result from 10 years of privatization disappointing. Government to accelerate unbundling of TCN into 2 entities. BPE to sell shares of Discos, EPCL, Nikon, others to public. Now, of course, yesterday there was this federal government retreat, of course, meant to step up the establishment of the Integrated National Electricity Policy and Strategic Implementation Plan as required by the new Electricity Act 2023. And a number of ideas being bandied at that retreat, of course, including that gas should not be sold to the Gencos in dollars but in naira. Well, 2 Nigerian entities doing business, you want to say the transaction should be in naira. Will that help? Will that ameliorate the shortage of gas we're talking about? Nigeria is rich in gas, so we should have no problem supplying gas to our Gencos. But I think one idea that must be pushed through is that of unbundling or splitting the TCN, the transmission company. Because we always have this problem of even Gencos generating so much, but the transmission company unable to evacuate. So, as this is a 3-day retreat, so we'll look at, we'll see what they'll come up with, and we just hope that we can deal with this electricity problem once and for all. Because going by even African standards, Nigeria remains one of the least electrified countries in the continent, with over 40% of citizens without access to power, and others depending on the national grid, epileptic national grid that produces just between 3,000 and 4,000 megawatts daily. So this electricity situation is dire, and if this government can resolve all the bottlenecks and ensure that we have electricity in this country uninterrupted, then there will be huge kudos to the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration. Now, we move over. Now, a story just beside the photograph, the upper photograph in this Rwanda, that's Bismarck, Rwanda. Federal government's target of $1 trillion economy in 8 years becoming a pipe dream. And you know, when Bismarck, Rwanda talks economics, well, people listen because he knows his onions. Now, the Nation newspaper, of course, the lead story, electricity crisis, government to sell off 40% investment in discos. The Nation newspaper, that's where we are now. But the story above, just below the masthead, yes, of the Nation. Akeredolu transmits power to Lucky Ayedatiwa. Governor goes on medical vacation. You just say, at last. So why was all this going back and forth? The governor was sick, he's sick, and cannot perform, but somebody somewhere felt he should cling to power, or people were using power on his behalf. But now, power has been transmitted to the deputy governor, and the Ondo State Governor, Arakunrin Rotimi Akeredolu, SAN, has flown to Germany to receive proper medical attention. That's what he needs, not power struggle, as we have seen in the past how many months when he has been living in Ibadan, not in his home state where he's supposed to govern. Now, the Punch newspaper also reporting that story. Yes, Ondo crisis, deputy takes over as Akeredolu returns to Germany for treatment. Ailing governor to transmit letter to lawmakers. Tinubu meets Ondo leaders again. Assembly holds closed-door session. Akeredolu promises full recovery before returning. Please, you should just stay, receive full treatment, recover, and return. Now, other stories on the front page of The Punch. We've moved to The Punch newspaper. The director should take note of that. The Punch newspaper, please. Yes. The story, a couple of stories below the photograph. Tinubu begs Nigerian doctors abroad to return. Well, even the number of Nigerian doctors that are leaving, I thought we should also deal with that before begging those who are there to return. But again, that is the situation. Departments in critical departments in hospitals closing down because there are no specialists. Perhaps if we are to woo these Nigerian doctors abroad, they will come and fill these spaces. But they're not coming here to collect peanuts like Nigerian doctors are collecting now. That is why they are leaving this climb and moving to other climes, including Sierra Leone and Gambia, where they are even better paid than in their fatherland, also known as the giant of Africa. Now, another story above the masthead of the Punch newspaper. Federal government probe use of foreign prisoners as construction workers. That in itself is being proved. Now, if we look at the Guardian newspaper, still talking about the health sector, NAFDAC. Counterfeit drugs market booms amid staff shortage, poor funding. 267,000 deaths due to fake anti-malaria medications. 169,271 killed by substandard antibiotics. 97.1% of 7.648 billion naira budget goes to salaries. 2.9% left for capital expenses in the health sector. Inferior drugs kill 500,000 persons in Nigeria, SSA countries yearly, sub-Saharan African countries yearly. Only 2,000 NAFDAC staff saddled with 58,020 registered products post-market surveillance. Well, the health sector is in a serious situation. The health of Nigerians, I'm sure, well, of course, there was the summit yesterday at Aso Villa where the president and the Minister of Health all dealt with issues related to the health sector. Now, if we look at the New Telegraph newspaper, powerful Nigerians involved in illegal mining, funding, banditry, terrorism. Dele Alake, the Minister of Mines, says government identifying them through kinetic, non-kinetic means, most of the foreigners not properly documented by immigration. Well, this is a serious allegation. If powerful Nigerians, I think these people should be named. Names. We're tired of hearing powerful Nigerians doing illegal things, nobody bringing them to book. We just grab the headlines and that is the end of the matter. No. We want these names, and if they are engaged in illegality, they should be brought before the law. Just above that story, Senate berates minister over proposed 1 billion naira Geneva trip in 2024 budget. Well, you want to know that, minister? Look at the New Telegraph newspaper. Now, the Vanguard newspaper, 2024 budget under threat as oil price drops to $76.53 per barrel. Oil output falls by 7.4% to 1.25 barrels per day, according to Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulation Commission. Oil theft still affecting output, NMPC. Minister of State, oil remains positive. Experts make case for more investment diversification. While the, of course, the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, of course, the same lead story with the New Telegraph, but the story below the photograph. Resume payment of 35,000 naira wage award immediately. TUC asks federal government, expresses worry over Nigeria's debt profile. Now, the Daily Trust newspaper, concerns over abducted students as airstrike kills bandits leader Kawaji. Over 50 other villagers still in captivity. Parents worried, pray for safe return. Late kingpin behind 2021 Air Force jet crash. Powerful illegal miners sponsoring banditry, federal government there, yes. Kaduna massacre. Villagers sue federal government. Demand 33 billion naira compensation. Yes. Dr. Abati?
Well,
Ayo,
you don't have any foreign paper?
I will get to the foreign paper shortly, but let's just look at it.
Okay, first, I was talking about this front page story in this earlier on, about federal government charting a new roadmap for the power sector. And I said it's a good thing to see that the Minister of Power is beginning to consult, and I hope that he will listen to some of the suggestions coming from the people who should know, and that this has come at the right time, at a time when the national grid collapsed for the third time in 2023, leaving a country of over 200 million people at one point with a supply of just about 4 megawatts. And even the 4,000 megawatts that we get, you know, it's ridiculous compared to what you find in other countries that even have smaller populations and smaller level of power need. However, you know, I read a piece by Mr. Sonny Iroche, who was an executive director with the Transmission Company of Nigeria, 2013, I think, to 2017, where he was making a case for privatization of the TCN. Now, and I think that that is instructive, because one of the recommendations coming out of the meeting that the minister had with stakeholders is this point about the unbundling of the Transmission Company of Nigeria. Now, if you look at it, around 2014, when the Jonathan administration was still there, Manitoba of Canada was engaged to manage the Transmission Company of Nigeria. But Manitoba, one way or the other, was pushed out of the system, and government officials began to manage the Transmission Company of Nigeria. What we have seen over time is that this transmission company of Nigeria is the weak link. What does it do? It takes power from the generating companies and takes to the disco companies. But it's been so inefficient in doing so. And this has resulted in loss of revenue since government took over Transmission Company of Nigeria. The argument of stakeholders like Sonny Uruche is that you have to privatize it, along with international best practice as seen in Australia, UK, USA, Canada. Because when you privatize it, you get best practice, you get investors. And that what the power sector needs, electricity sector in Nigeria needs, is a lot of investment. Again, the focus on the transmission at that forum, again underscores the need for the unbundling that they talk about with regard to ensuring that we don't have just one grid. The grid has to be decentralized. Yes, other people can generate electricity. There is that law that allows them. But at the end of the day, it's just a single grid. And the infrastructure is bad, is poor. So one of the things that the Tinubu administration needs to do is to work on the infrastructure. Can you imagine a country of 200 million people not having electricity? And then you say steady supply of electricity is what will lead to economic growth and development. I was interested in a foreign story, but since you are not yet there.
Let's put up the Guardian there, the Guardian of UK. Yes, okay. Sunak avoids major rebellion over Rwanda deportation bill. For now, the Guardian of UK, the foreign newspaper, yes. And of course, that bill barely scales through. But the rebels within the Tory party are still spoiling for a fight. And January may just be a time to start this fight all over. For now, there's some reprieve for Rishi Sunak concerning the Rwanda deportation bill.
So I want to take two stories. Number one would be the story about Mr. Adele Alake saying, powerful Nigerians involved in illegal mining and funding banditry and terrorism. The question is by now, I should think with all of the monies being paid on intelligence in this country, they should be able to fish out these powerful Nigerians. Just as we are still waiting for a full reaction of the Navy to a representative of Tantita Security, because he said a lot in that interview that I still feel the Navy needs a right of reply to. And we need to know what is going on as regards our resource.
But just to put the record straight.
Yeah, because initially it was a right of reply to
the Navy was invited to Newsnight.
Yeah,
the Admiral in charge of the Western Naval Command was there. Tantita was invited. They did not show up.
Okay,
on Arise News
So
night.
I get the drift of it. What Tantita said was a right of reply. But what Tantita also said generated a lot of things that the Navy too needs to reply.
So it's not as if the Navy has not been forthcoming. So we just have to put that straight.
I mean, that was the point I was trying to make that you had made initially. And we said it during the interview that day, that the Navy did come before now. But the Navy needs to talk more. And we need to get to the end of the matter. Are there some actors that the Navy does not want to give up that is involved in this theft of our crude oil? Are there things we need to know that we do not know? Just like Mr. Delelaki is saying powerful Nigerians. Who are these powerful Nigerians? Is it a catchment area that we need to know that we do not know? Because I expect heads to roll. We can't keep saying powerful Nigerians are stealing from our resource and the people cannot have that resource to be able to develop. And we keep, hiding these powerful Nigerians. We need to be able to get to the root of the matter and solve this matter once and for all. Just that I as well expect the Navy to still come back and react to some things that Tita did say. Secondly, as regards the power situation Dr. Abati was talking about, a very good point made about the need for a multi-grid. But let me dial back historically. It's not that we've never had multi-grids in this country. I think it was from the military mindset of harmonization of everything that we got into this problem in the first place. Take, for instance, a place like Jos. One of the first power stations in Nigeria, apart from Ijora, was privately owned. And that company still produces power in Jos today. And that company started in the early 20s. I forget their name. I think it's Nesco or something. That company started. They started producing power. And they had an independent grid system that focused on the tin sector in just then because a lot of team mining was going on. But once we started harmonizing the grid, you put power from that production outfit, everything must come to the national grid, which can never work for a country that wants to industrialize. I also get the argument of a lot of people and the government when they say, for the sake of national security, putting your national grid in the hands of a private company is not the best idea. And that's why Manitoba Hydro had a lot of those problems when it came in then. And that's why we call for a multi-grid. And what the government should control is the overarching supervisory system of the grid. So take, for instance, I don't see why we can't have grids according to the geopolitical zone of this country. A southwest grid, a southeast grid, and all of that. 6 geopolitical zones, 6 grids. But this is why also, in the new Power Act, the government has put it open to the states to be major stakeholders. And that's why I kept on kicking against them now talking about buying gas, not in Naira because of dollar and things like that. For me, you are not supposed to look at the business again. Once you make it private, I know here there's an argument of energy security and all of that. Because gas too is a business. We keep talking easily, we flare gas, we do this, we do all of that. But it's a business. You flare gas, but we don't have the gas. So it's not about what you have in abundance, but what you do in abundance. Have you been able to bring the gas out of the ground to make it for commercial purposes? No. Most of the people in the gas sector in this country still largely import gas, and we have it in abundance. So there's a business angle to it, and any time we try to, now legislate that business angle to it, it always brings problem because the real private investors will not want to come into the business. I think it's incumbent on the state governors now, or the regionals, to be able to look for investments. If it was the heydays of the Odua Investment Group, these are the things I would have thought that the likes of Odua Investment Group will heavily invest in to be able to bolster this power sector. But there's a lot more that needs to be done as regards this.
Well, I think the major issue is that, look, we don't take processes or development seriously in this country. In 2017, the TCN, the Transmission Company of Nigeria, was actually decentralized. Licenses were given out to a independent transmission company and also to transmission service providers. And the country was divided into 10 regions where there could be other parties, that could work until the Manitoba people would work out. But nobody implemented it. Under President Buhari, we had the Presidential Power Initiative, the agreement between the federal government and Siemens. When President Tinubu went for the conference recently, one of the things that came up there when he met at the G20, on the sidelines of the G20, with the German Chancellor, the German Chancellor was saying, look, Siemens has enough capacity to generate as much power as you want. You people should go and work at your own end and get things right. Part of the problem is that we don't get things right in this country. And as for gas, you say, okay, we'll play in Naira. Is it not? Yes, it is true. Almost 80% of the thermal plants supply electricity. We made this point when that governor in Niger State was saying he wants to collect derivation because of the water that is used. We have to remind him that hydropower is in fact very small in Nigeria compared to thermal plants. And now, there is no gas. The Nigerian gas company has no gas to supply to anybody. And that was why we raised the point the other day that yes, crude oil may have been supplied to the Dangote refinery. Where is the gas for the petrochemicals, for the production of urea and other derivatives? No, nobody can make gas available. So even if you carry your lorry loads of Naira, what are you going to buy? So many issues in the power sector, but I think that Adelabu, the minister, now that he's prepared to learn and listen, that in itself is a very good development.
Ayo, I want to let me draw attention just before you comment. The Punch newspaper is reporting, this is serious, over 5,000 Nigerians killed since May 2029, according to this report. And if you look at it, no fewer than 5,060 Nigerians have been killed, while 2,000 263 others were abducted, across the country since May 29. And this, according to a report by this Beacon Consulting, Abuja-based security risk management and intelligence. I just felt
thank you so much for highlighting that,
Yeah.
Mr. Kenny, because in the past few days you've been talking about investors, attracting investors to Nigeria, and we had tried to highlight some of the challenges that that coming into Nigeria as an investment destination is, and one of the key challenges would be security. And under this administration, security was also highlighted as a priority area. Unfortunately, this doesn't seem to be the case. Now, in terms of, or perhaps the President Tinubu administration, they've just come into power. But a number of things, we'll talk about that in detail later on, but a number of things can be said as how to show up. But let me mention the Pulaku initiative launched by the Tinubu administration to have a more holistic, kinetic and non-kinetic address to security. All right.
Anyway, thank you very much, Emmanuel.